Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Patrick. Today I was digging around in my closet full of junk and technology, and I found a product that you might find interesting to review. This is the pink limited edition PlayStation Portable? Question mark? No, it's not. It's actually a knockoff version. This is the JXD A1000. You can see some foreign lettering on there. It is a Chinese kind of knockoff of a PlayStation Portable. So here it is, glossy back, kind of like the original PlayStation Portable. You got some speakers on either side, which are actually pretty good. Over here we have a camera. It's 2 megapixel, and it is absolutely horrible. Never ever use it. You can take pictures and video on here, but not really something you want to do with it. Up here at the top we've got our L and R buttons, and they feel actually really great. You've got 2 headphone outs and a mini USB for charging. Along the front here, I'll turn it on in a second, we have our square, circle, triangle, X buttons, a select and start button. Over here we've got our D-pad and this kind of joystick that came with the PSP, and some status lights that are over here. It is a 4.3-inch TFT LCD display, nothing fantastic. Down there at the bottom it says Game Player. The resolution on the display is 1280 by 720, which is okay. On the bottom here you've got a reset button over here that I'm hiding by my finger, a micro SD slot for expansion, built-in microphone, and the power button. You can do SD cards up to 32 gigs, fat format. I have just an 8 gig in here, and it works pretty well. And that's basically the exterior here. Really very close to the same dimensions of a PlayStation Portable, might be even a little bit thinner. This back here obviously does not work with any cartridges or anything like this. This is intended to be an emulator. So let me turn this on for you real quick. You just kind of hold this power button here on the bottom. The light goes on. JXD comes up on the screen as the manufacturer. Boot time is fine. And then you can kind of see here, that looks like an Apple operating system. Even the icons are awfully close to what you might remember with iOS 6. I think it was 6. Older iOS. So they kind of copied that. They copied the PSP. This is really one of those knockoff devices that you can get overseas. But for 50 bucks, it is pretty darn nice. Now, JXD is an electronic company. They make a whole bunch of different products. They do make a lot of these portable players. They have some Android ones that are like really nice, like $150, $200 ones that have, you know, quad cores in them and 4 gigs of RAM and 7-inch displays, and they got these nice, you know, full controllers on either side. But this is definitely the cheap end one. I have an 8 gig in here. It does have 4 gig internal storage, and I use it exactly as an emulator. The camera is horrible. Watching video on it's not really great. It's only a 720p screen, and even 720 content it really doesn't look that good. Screen's a TFT LCD, but for 50 bucks, this is really the you want to relive some of your childhood, and you got some old Pokemon or Super Mario, Legend of Zelda, some of those old games like, you know, Contra even, and you want to play some of those. This does a very, very good job at it. Let me go to JXD's website. If you just Google this, JXD A1000, you can find it on Amazon and a couple other places like ThinkGeek occasionally, geekbuying.com, dx.com. Amazon has it occasionally. So on JXD's website, it talks about a 4.3 16 by 9 TFT LCD. Games, it says it can do Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, NES, SMD, SMC, BIN, SWF, 16-bit, 32-bit, and 64-bit games. Let's see, 2 megapixel camera. Video is a 1280 by 720p display. It can play WMV, VOB, FLV, ASF files, DAP files, MP4, 3GP, and MPEG files. And the output You can do this out to a TV using composite video, and composite video is at 720 by 480, so it's not that great if you want to output it to a TV. The built-in lithium battery is pretty darn good. You get about 6-7 hours of gameplay, 12 hours of audio, and it's not too bad. Capacity is 4 gigs plus 32. Comes in a whole bunch of different colors, but I've never been able to find any color different than black. Dimensions are a little under 7 long, a little under 3 wide. Depth is 0.61 inches, and height, well, they don't have height. Weight is half a pound. This is very, very lightweight, made out of some chintzy kind of plastic, but the weight is fine in the hands. It's not too heavy, it's not too lightweight. They says it has a 5 megapixel camera on here for 720p video recording, but up here on the same page it says that it's a 2 megapixel camera. I don't know if they can actually do 720 on that, even though it says 5 megapixels down there and 2 megapixel up there. On the back here it doesn't mention what pixel density it is. Built-in 1600 milliamp hour rechargeable battery, which is pretty darn good actually. It talks about it has a whole bunch of language supports, can support audio recording, FM radio, ebooks, time display, calendar, clock, and what comes in the box. We will go over that here quickly. I probably should have done that first. Nothing impressive really. In the box you have the cable to do out. So you have out of here into your composite and audio. You have a little instruction manual, which is not in English one bit, so you won't be able to understand any of it unless you speak some different language. This is a nice bit that they do give you, though. If you do wind up plugging it into the TV, this is mini USB here on the top. This little controller is actually not too horrible, actually. It is really, really small. You know, a couple inches by a couple inches. But hooking it up to your TV, playing it, you got a couple simple games that you only need a D-pad and a few buttons for. It's pretty darn good. Kind of glad they included that. They come with a little sticker here. It says JXD and some lettering that I cannot understand. And they also include the charging cable, obviously, a small micro USB to USB cable that you can hook up to a computer, and a pair of cheap headphones. So that's what comes in the box. The device is great as an emulator. I have 115 different emulators on it, from Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, SNES, a whole bunch of even Sega Genesis games like you know, Contra and you know, some other games like Legend of Zelda that aren't for Sega Genesis, but a whole bunch of games that I have on here. I have a ton of Pokemon games. It's perfect for this. Never had any problems with it. Never lags. All the button placement works out very, very well. The only game that button placement is weird on is like Contra 2 or 3. All the buttons are backwards. You will get used to it eventually, but there's no button mapping on this. This is very, very simple for 50 bucks. But for the specs that you get, 50 bucks just to play some old Pokemon games rather than on the original console, it's not too bad. Rechargeable, you can take it anywhere with you. It's pretty darn portable. It also works as, you know, just a media player or something like that. Not very well, of course, but it's really just an emulator. Works pretty well. I haven't had any complaints with it. All the games work just fine for me. Build quality is not too horrendous. A single piece of plastic here in the back. That's just screwed to the front here, which is also a single piece of plastic. Buttons are fine. I haven't had any of them wear out or stick or any of that. I've never really used this little joystick guy down here. Actually, none of the games have ever used it. So I don't really know. I can't speak too much about how that works. But battery life, overall pretty enjoyable experience. Even outputting it to a TV at 480p is not bad, but it's not good. But considering the old games, retro games that you're going to be playing on it, it works out to be just fine. So this has been the review of the JXD A1000 Like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. I'll be answering them to the best of my ability. If you do come across one of these, 50 bucks, you decide to buy one, you need some help setting it up, you need a good place for games or emulators or zip files, what files to unzip, what files to leave zipped, so how this reads this correctly. I've been over all of it. I've invested way too much time in this thing, and I can probably help you set yours up. So once again, JXD A1000. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching this review.